Okay, Diablo 2 fans, this is Deep Fryer. Welcome to Wildcard Wednesday, where we are going to be doing some Countess runs tonight. I am looking for an additional rune in order to continue my progression in single player. Now, I am using the pluggy mod. This is version 10. It is probably the most common version of the pluggy mod, so I highly recommend checking it out. There is a link in the description below for a YouTube video from DJ Waters. Big shout out. He will show you how to get pluggy installed on your machine. I am also using a loot filter. There's also a link in the description below to install the loot filter. There's not really a huge need for the loot filter unless you're doing like lower caressed runs with the super chests, because the massive amounts of loot on the higher player difficulty settings are going to cloud up your screen. You're not going to be able to see what you're trying to pick up. So that is the main reason that I installed the loot filter. Anyway, let's see if we can get this going tonight. I guess everybody likes to see gear. Now, I will give you a fair warning. This is very early in my single-player career. I normally play Battle.net, but I don't know, just, muling has really gotten on my nerves lately, and there's just some things about Battle.net play that, you can't do magic fighting runs over and over. You get realm down. There's some disadvantages to Battle.net. Now, I mean, there's obviously disadvantages to single-player as well. There's not a big community of people to just jump into a game with. You can't really JSP. Yes, I'm a JSPer. Shoot me, whatever. But anyway, so this is rather early in my single-player career. I am using the pluggy mod, as I said earlier. It does give you a crazy amount of stash space, basically infinite. I forget the exact number, but it's some kind of crazy number of stash tabs you can never use all of. It gives you infinite stash, as much as you'd ever need. Your character sheet is also going to have these page buttons down here. You're going to be able to quickly and easily see some additional statistics, such as your total magic find, important stats such as FCR. You got your IAS, leeches, hit recovery, all kinds of stats there. Something interesting, so you see my resistances to fire, cold, and lightning are maxed out. You're actually going to be able to see your grand total of those resistances. So if that's important to you, maybe you're going to do Ubers. Maybe you're worried about Mephisto's Conviction Aura, lowering your resistances. Maybe you just want to know how much resistance you've stacked. This is going to give you your grand total here in the pluggy mod. It's fantastic. Now, you can also add or remove stats very easily on the fly. This is instant respec, basically, with the pluggy mod. You can hold the Alt key down and take a couple points out of Vitality, put them in Strength. Hold Alt key down, take them back out of Strength, put them back in Vitality. Super easy to do that. Go to your skill tree. There's a button up here that will allow you to unallocate all skill points. So you can easily respec. You don't have to farm tokens. So that's another good thing about the play. Well, depending on how you look at it, it's a good or a bad thing. If you enjoy farming tokens, if you like the idea of having to put a little bit of effort into respecing your character, then you may see that as a negative. But I like to try all kinds of different builds. I like to be versatile, especially when you are self-found, because obviously all single player, unless you're hacking or using Hero Editor or whatever, you're basically self-found single player. So you're gonna need to respec based on your situation. You're gonna want the ability to respec. So, like for example, when I did my Hell Ancients, I was using a pure fire sorceress for incredible damage, but one of the ancients were of course fire immune, and so since this is self-found single player, I do not have infinity pole arm to break that immunity. So I had to respec on the fly. So that's kind of an example of when you would need to respec. When you are at an impasse, you're at a situation where you cannot move forward without using a different type of build, you can respec on the fly. So that was a good opportunity while I had the skill tree open. I should have showed you this build. Everybody always likes to show builds, and these videos are going to be no different. Of course, in the we're going pure lightning because these are Countess runs. Countess is immune to cold and fire. This is a hell run, so Countess is immune to cold and fire. So we're going to be running a lightning source. Fire is just 1 point in warmth. Cold is going to be 1 point in frozen armor. Yeah. You want shiver armor? That's fine. Put your points in. That's okay. But since this is solo self-found and it is very early in my career, I don't have a lot of plus skills. You'll see now that skill level is only 5. So I only have basically 4 plus skills. So I chose to just go with frozen armor instead of worrying about shiver armor because I saved my points for the lightning tree. Of course, this is your traditional pure lightning build. I do have a point into energy shield. I do love some energy shield early in the career. Maybe you can skip it later, and I probably will once I get some better gear. But right now, we're going energy shield all the way. Well, 1 point. We've also maxed out chain lightning, charged bolt, and lightning mastery, of course, with the extra points into Nova. This is going to be optimal for farming Countess. You're going to want very, very high lightning damage. Now, one other thing I will mention, the gear that I'm using, I basically use the same gear for my Magic Find runs and my Countess runs. I don't feel like swapping out a bunch of gear pieces, so I will show you what gear I'm using right now. Now, this is, keep in mind, this is very early in my single-player career, so this is not going to be your GG gear. I don't have, Chains of Honor. I don't have, Chance Guards. I don't have Maras. So let me just show you what I got going on here. I have a Spirit Broadsword. Woo! Yeah, exactly, right? But at least it is a 34% very favorable FCR roll. I've also got a Spirit Monarch. It is a 31% FCR roll. It is made in an 11% ED superior base. So, got a little bit of defense going on there with that. My helmet's going to be a Tal Rasha's with a P Topaz socketed. I've got Tal Rasha's Guardianship armor, also socketed with P Topaz, and I have a 40% MF Tal Rasha belt. Now that's going to give me that 3-piece set bonus, which is going to net me an additional 65% magic find. The belt and the armor are giving me 10% faster cast rate each. So, since I'm not using Arachnid's Mesh, which I do have one now, I did find one, I think it was 2 days ago. So I do have an Arachnid's Mesh if I did want to switch over to that. But I am trying to max out my Magic Find due to the fact that this is very early in my single-player career. So I think this is very, very respectable Magic Find for these 3 pieces here. Now, I also have an amulet. This is kind of like a poor man's Maras. There are no plus skills. But I do have some very respectable resistances, actually. Looks like this amulet has rolled with a 15 all resist mod. But now we've also got additional rolls on cold resist and an incredibly good roll on a fire resist, 55%. That is just insane, folks. That's great. That's awesome fire resist. And a 26 to strength mod. That was very helpful in helping me reach the minimum 156 strength for the Monarch Shield, equipping the Monarch Shield. So damage reduced by 4, I mean, it's not something to write home about, but at least it's not a useless mod, so I was pretty happy with this amulet. We're also rocking some rare chain gloves. I have not found any chance guards yet, so I am rocking some rare chain gloves with 17% MF. Of course, looking for that MF, folks. That's what we need on these early careers. Also got some lightning, poison, resist, whatever. Rings. We're going full MF, people. We got 24% MF on the left ring, 25% MF on the right ring. That's going to be the best MF rings I have found so far. The boots, guess what? We are rocking some Cow King's hooves. That is right. I have not found any War Travs yet. So we're rocking some Cow King's hooves. We got their 30% faster run walk. We got our 25% MF. You can't go wrong. So I know what you're thinking. What kind of charms are you using? Well, I'm going to show you. They're just some basic charms. We got some all resistance 13. We got some cold. I do have a 30% Geeds. I have found a couple of Geeds. I was very happy to find those. But I've not found that 40%er yet. So I'm having to just kind of rock and roll with a 30% Geeds. The rest of these charms are basically resistances to try to get my resistances maxed out. There are a couple of Magic Find charms. We got a 4%er here with a 10% fire resist. That's actually a decent charm. We got a 5% Magic Find there. And another 5% there. So nothing too crazy. Now, weapon swap. I will say that there is no CTA. I've not found a Mal, and I have not found an Ohm. I finally found an Is from Countess, actually. So, if I can get me an I need an extra from Countess. Once I have that, I can move on. I am very, very much looking forward to finding my first Shaco. And so I want an rune to put in that Shaco so I can start using it immediately, basically. That is what this is all about, is an to go in a Shaco. That's why we're running Countess on Wildcard Wednesday. Welcome to Wildcard Wednesday. This is Deep Fryer. You can call me DF for short, whatever you prefer. Kind of have an idea to maybe have a different theme each night. Like we might have our Monday night Mephisto. We might do Tunnels Tuesday. There's different options we can do here to kind of keep with that theme of daily videos. So right now we're doing Wildcard Wednesday. What I mean by wildcard is I'm just basically going to pick whatever activity is going to serve my purposes best on progressing farther in this single-player career, this single-player account. And so that's what Wildcard Wednesday is all about. And right now, my number one priority is acquiring an rune. So we're going to be running Countess. On weapon switch, as I said earlier, no CTA very early in this career. I have a Blade of Alibaba for Magic Find and a Rhyme Grimshield for Magic Find as well. Now, I use this weapon swap for Mephisto runs and Dariel runs, any kind of boss runs, basically. Of course, you're going to use a weapon swap. That's going to be where that truly shines. And so that's what I do. But for simple things like, your Countess runs, your Ancient Tunnels, I don't really fool with doing the weapon swap for those, because that's not, trying to squeeze out that little bit of extra magic find is not the purpose of this. So I just like to kind of kick back, relax, and just kind of do my thing. So here's what we're going to do. We are going to get this show on the road. Of course, this is single player, so the same map rolls over and over. So I pretty much know these maps now. I don't even have to look at my mini map. Now, I will hit this armor stand most of the time. It's gonna actually spawn a coronet. I see that all the time. I did see that armor rack spawn a sacred targe a couple of times. So, in the interest of trying to do some research on some of those weapon racks, I actually, earlier I watched a video from, of course, if you like to watch Diablo 2 streams, you're probably familiar with Mr. Mama SC. I did watch a video of his earlier where he was talking about the weapon racks. So apparently the mobs that spawn around the weapon rack, in addition to how you approach that weapon rack is going to affect what item that weapon rack drops. It has been difficult for me to reproduce the Sacred Torch. So maybe we can actually do a little bit of experimentation in this video. Now, I did get a rare Druid pelt, so I'm actually going to pop this into one of my stash pages where I am keeping some unidentified Druid pelts. I've also got some circlets getting started here, so we're maybe going to do some kind of video where we do some identification on some rare circlets and pelts. It's always fun. Everybody loves that. So let's see what happens here. Let me try to maybe I'll try to approach that weapon rack from a different angle. Let's see what happens. There's also armor rack. There's also a weapon rack here, but I'm not really seeing anything I'm terribly interested in from that rack. Oh, Merc's having a little bit of trouble there. Merc gear. I guess I should have showed the Merc gear. I do have an ethereal Becta Corbin. I have level 13 meditation aura. Yeah, I could have a higher level meditation, and I probably will re-roll that very soon now that I've got several runes from my Countess runs. I am using Andy's Helm for the increased attack speed. I have been a little lazy. I have not socketed that yet with a Ral rune. So as you can see, my Merc's fire resistance is suffering a little bit. But that's something that could be addressed later. I don't do a lot of, Chaos Sanctuary runs. I mostly just still keeping it simple right now, trying to build up some of my gear, mostly doing your Mephisto, your Countess, things like that. So the fire resistance is not that critical. The cold, lightning, and poison. Cold and poison are excellent. Lightning is a little lackluster, but now I am equipping my mercenary with an ethereal bugged wire fleece, 1045 defense, treachery, rune word, Shelthol limb. Now I just finally got my limb rune yesterday to equip treachery on my mercenary. So once that fade level 15 procs, that's going to give him additional resistances, additional damage reduction, 45% increased attack speed on this armor is excellent, as well as 20% faster hit recovery. When I put this armor on my Merc, this is when he truly started to shine. He started being able to survive some of the hell difficulty tasks that I was giving to him. Anyway, so here we go. So let's, well, I messed that up there. I'm still approaching the armor stand from the same direction. Coronet. See, there's no monster spawned around it. And I approach it from the traditional direction. It's a coronet. So that is one of the main points that Mr. Llama was making in his item racks video. Careful. Is that depending on how you approach the item racks and how many adds, enemies, even spawns, even your own spawns. Even your own spawns apparently affects the item racks. So it's very, very interesting game mechanics with the item racks. So we're going to give it a whirl. And I am also using auto hotkey to recreate a hell game. It is very easy to accidentally hit Nightmare and you've just screwed up your whole map. Or if you do it with your keyboard, you can accidentally hit the N for Nightmare it's right next to H for hell. So I just use auto hotkey. I hold the Alt key down, I press Q, and it will automatically take me out of the game and get me a new hell game going. Now, it was a little tricky. It took a bit of the evening to figure out some of the auto hotkey specifics. So give yourself a little bit of time to figure out some coding, or at some point I can post the code I'm using. I don't mind to do that at all. Just can't right now. I am a little spoiled. I'm playing full screen, so I can't see any chat comments or do too much right now while I've got the game running because I am running full screen. But anywho, so Tower Cellar level 2. This is where the armor rack is. Let's come all the way down here and circle way around. And I'm going to approach this rack from a different direction, from way down here instead of the traditional method. We're going to see if we can get that Sacred Targe. I'd really love a good Sacred Targe base for a Paladin. I am going to be making a Paladin next. I'll probably do a live video of some of the leveling. A Bone Helm. Okay. We approach from that direction. Bone Helm. Quite interesting. No monsters nearby. Bone Helm. I don't fully understand the rack mechanics yet, but I am starting to learn that in single player, you can somewhat manipulate the racks. Not necessarily manipulate, but you can, I guess you could say farm. Like, you could almost farm the racks. Now, I do realize there are racks over here in the Tower Cellar level 5. I am aware, but I have not really, from my understanding with the armor and weapon racks, there's a set, what do I want to say, pool of items that those will drop and pull from, and I have not gotten anything off of these racks useful. Now, since that dropped a Targe, it is interesting that that dropped a Targe. I wonder if it could also drop a Sacred Targe. Very interesting, very interesting. That's the first time I've seen a Targe off of that rack. I did not give it enough chances to do something interesting. Anyway, let's continue with our Wildcard Wednesday. Welcome to Wildcard Wednesday. This is Deep Fryer, DF for short. I am running my level 87 Sorceress. Go Find Yourself is her name. And we are doing some Countess runs here. I need another Unrune to further my progression in this single player career. Where did that armor rack go? Ah, here it is. Another Bone Helm. See, that is further confirming Mr. Llama's theory about, I mean, it's basically a fact that depending on how you approach the racks, Dirk, how you approach the racks greatly affects what item it's going to drop. And you can actually, you can recreate the same scenarios. You can cause the rack to drop the same item over and over. And I don't know if you're aware or not, but the racks do not drop low-quality items. So that means you increase your chances of getting a superior or a socketed item. Let me see. Let me just real quick see what this armor stand. Ah, drops a Luna. Interesting. There are no monsters in here. No, there's one monster. I don't know if he was in here originally. We're going to do some experimentation on that rack. We're going to do some experimentation on that rack. If there are no monsters in that room, I believe it is going to spawn a Luna every time. Let me hit this weapon real fast. Short battle bow, no monsters. I feel like I keep seeing that short battle bow and there's no monsters. This is just basically further confirming Mr. Llama's videos about the racks. Boots. That is interesting. Plain boots. But there is a champion monster next to it. So my understanding is that when there is a boss near the rack, it also affects what that rack spawns. Oh boy, I've been amp damaged. Well, let's get this run done before we end up dying. It wouldn't be terrible to die at these sub 90 levels, but I don't want to unless I have to. Amrune, okay, let's pick up an Amrune. Okay, let's see here. Let's see if there's any monsters. Okay. No monsters in this room. So, based on that theory, this should spawn a Luna shield with no monsters. Embossed plate. Very interesting. Very interesting. I guess that monster that was in this room last run, I guess it did affect it if that theory is indeed correct. Okay. Let's hit another run right quick. Let's heal up. Heal up at Akara. Get our buffs going. Shiver armor, energy shield, yada yada. Okay. I would very much like to get my Umrune in that weapon rack. Okay, another boss monster right next to the rack. A health spawn skull. Interesting. This seems to be a rather fun rack to try to figure out. I'll tell you what I really like. I'd like to get a good thresher rack going. A rack that consistently drops threshers. I'd love me some thresher bases. I do love threshers for the base weapon speed. I like fast attack. Dull Soul Soul. Not terrible. Alright. We got Scarab Husk and a Throwing Axe. Interesting. Very interesting. There is apparently a method to the madness with these weapon racks, according to Mr. Llama. But I would have to say that the emphasis would have to be on madness. There are definitely patterns. I will say that there are definitely patterns, but sometimes things just don't quite make sense. Like, what if I... Okay. What if I approach this rack from this direction? Hit it. Loricated map. See, something totally different. I don't know what the method is to that madness. So, apparently, not apparently, it is a fact, the ghosts have a higher chance of dropping runes because they can't drop weapons or armor, so, you know, stands to reason if you can't drop X item, then you're more likely to drop Y item. So, I do kill those occasionally on the way down to Countess. Very rarely do I see any drop. Interesting. Let's see here. Shale and Dole. I am still doing a little bit of rune cubing this early in my career, so I never mind those runes cube with. Not at all, I don't mind. Magic Jewel. Alright, let's see here. Jawbone Visor. Tomahawk. Alright. Still things that are totally different, but honestly, my understanding is that you have to farm the map over and over to get an idea of kind of what the pool of items is that the rack is pulling from. So it may take several runs. Alright, let's approach this armor rack from the south again. I would call this the south. I would call it the south. Oh, lightning immune. Skip, skip, skip. Okay. Okay, so there are monsters around the rack. Heavy bracers. Okay, yeah. You know, good luck finding a method to the madness when there are so many different types of monsters spawning. If I'm understanding correctly, it's when there are no monsters spawned around it, then the rack is supposed to give you the same item every time. So if you could find a map with a weapon or an armor rack that does not spawn, does not ever spawn any monsters around it, oops, optimized out there somehow, does not spawn any monsters around it, then theoretically you could farm an item off of that rack. That's the theory. It would be great if you could find a rack for a thresher or something desirable like that. That is sought after. Let's see. I am going to mule a couple things right fast here. Let's see. Dole rune. I got a couple doles I can do here. Sol rune. Looks like I need to do some cubing, but for right now, I'm just gonna toss them right there. Let's see what we have going on with these. 34% enhanced damage. I mean, it's not great, but I'm gonna keep that for now, just because that is the highest enhanced damage tool that I have found so far in the single-player career. So we'll keep that. 6% life leech ring. Not a keeper, not at all, especially when, you know, you got Chthon's. It's got Chthon's ring that's got some other modifiers. So let's give this another run. Give it another go. Let's approach this rack from a different direction. Let's come down here. Now let me approach this direction. Military pit. Interesting. Just still trying to kind of get a feel for what these racks are doing. Lightning immunes, and of course we've got amp damage. Oh boy. All kinds of lovely monsters. Okay, so we had a boss monster. Ah, rare boots. Interesting. I feel like we had boots one other time. When there was a, I mean, not rare obviously, but I feel like we had boots another time there was a boss monster there. So there is some sort of pattern. It's just elusive, basically. Alright, let's see what Countess is going to do now. Come on, Umrune, so we can move on to something else. Lightning immune. Amrune, okay. Alright, let's check these racks just to see what they're doing for us. Luna again. Interesting. Maybe it's the number of monsters, because there was only one monster in there before when the Luna, I feel like when the Luna spawned, and it seemed like there was only one or two monsters there, so I don't really know. We're going to give it another run. This is just a trial run of my live video game streaming, so I actually am going to need to hit up some dinner very soon. I have not had dinner tonight, so we're going to call it quits here in just a couple of minutes. Might do just a couple more runs. Coronet. Okay, no monsters around, and we get the coronet. So,
I am overburdened.
That has been a recurring theme. Oh, our boots are ethereal. Look at that. Interesting. Okay. Alright, let's see if Countess will give up an I mean, heck, I would take a yes as well, obviously. Even a limb, I just have one spare limb right now. Doesn't look like it's happening this run. Another Luna with no monsters in here. Interesting. The Luna could very well be for when there's no monsters in here, and it just happened to be that those couple of monsters came in from this doorway. So it's looking like Luna is the static item spawn for no monsters in the room. Okay. Let's give it one last run, and then we are going to call it evening. Thank you so much for joining me. This is Deep Fryer, DF for short. This has been Wildcard Wednesday, where we've been doing some Countess runs, looking for an rune, and trying to play around a little bit with some weapon racks and armor racks, trying to understand some of their mechanics, since they can apparently be manipulated a little bit in single player, since of course you roll that static map seed over and over. So if you figure out the mechanics, then you could potentially farm some racks for some GG items, but right now we're still in the beginning stages of that. Oops, I must not have gone through there. There we go. All right, this is the final run. Let's make it good. Come on, rune. Ist, limb, anything useful. Come on, come on, come on, come on. Come on. Ah, Tal. Of course, Tal. All right. Let's see what happens with this rack. There was a monster in here, so I wasn't really expecting the Luna.
Impossible.
Blood Spirit. What do I have in here? Oh, 5-socket Divine Scepter. That must have been from earlier. Okay, nothing useful on that. Nothing useful there. Okay, well, there you have it, folks. That is some Countess runs with some item rack speculation and experimentation. So don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for ongoing Diablo 2 live gaming videos. This is Deep Fryer. Stay cult, folks, and have a wonderful Wednesday evening. Good night.